Hi folks, this is Mike from Ham Radio Science. Today we're taking a look at the RSPduo, which is the newest SDR radio in the SDRplay lineup. This unit particularly has two independent tuners, which makes this very unique in this price range for an SDR radio. We've been using this radio now for a couple months and decided it's time to do a review on it, and so I can probably tell you that from my experience, this is probably one of the best, if not the best, RSPs in the SDRplay radio lineup. Okay, here's the new RSPduo running with the provided software SDRuno. Now, if you've been an RSP user before, you've probably used SDRduo, and we're going to look at some of the slight differences here when you're using the new RSPduo. You're going to find there's some things that are just slightly different to accommodate the dual independent receivers. So let's take a look at that. One of the first things you'll note is that we now have an option for tuner 1 and tuner 2. We also have the ability to select on tuner 1 a high Z or a 50 ohm antenna input. Plus you have some additional filters over here that you can use if necessary. We still have the RF gain control over here, so that's still available. Tuner 2 has the ability to power a bias T device like a preamp or some type of other device, as well as just using the standard 50 ohm tuner. So you can switch between the two antennas or two tuners on the fly. For example, we can switch to our tuner 2. We have a little smaller antenna on it, and you can see a little difference in what we were picking up before. So if I go back to tuner 1 to the larger antenna, then you can kind of see that difference right away once it starts back up. Now, just like in the past, we can change the sample rate up here. Right now it's set to 2 megahertz, but because these tuners have up to 10 megahertz of bandwidth, we can change that and look at a larger swath of frequencies. Now here again, we can still switch between the two individual tuners, which at this point are locked together, and they're picking up the same frequency. But of course, when I switch over to the second tuner on its 50 ohm antenna, you can see that here again it's not quite as sensitive as the one that we have plugged into tuner 1. Now, some of this is going to be interesting down the road as the software is more developed, because there is a potential here for diversity reception, which would be great, for this price range, to have that ability to use two antennas to null out noise and such. And I also wanted to take a second to point out that right now in this mode we have the ability to still add, just like before, some virtual tuners and delete them and so forth. So that's all fairly standard and still pretty much kind of what you might be used to with the other RSP devices. Okay, here's where things get a little different. You'll notice that right now we are in the single mode with SDRuno. This allows us to use basically one tuner at the time. Now with the dual independent tuners, we can use them separately, and to do that we have to switch the mode up here. So we have two choices here. We have dual normal and dual ADSB, and of course that's a little self-explanatory. When you're in dual ADSB, you're using the second receiver as a ADSB receiver only. So we're going to switch to dual normal, and you'll notice some things kind of immediately. First of all, our sample rate decreases. And that's just right now the way it is, that when you're running the dual receivers independently, you're going to get a little less of a sample rate going on here. Okay, take note that we are now in dual mode. You can see that our IF bandwidth is now set to here, and as we call that, or SDRuno calls that low IF. And note that when we made the change, that our sample rate has changed, so we're not seeing as much as the spectrum as we were before. So there's a couple of things to expect for now when you switch over to the dual mode. Now the other thing, you don't see the second tuner pop up automatically. What you have to do is go in and start a second instance of SDRuno, and so I'm going to stop, and we're going to do that right now. After rearranging the desktop a little bit, we've started our second instance of SDRuno, and you can see that on this side of the screen we have our independent tuner 1, and on this side of the screen we have independent tuner 2. Now right now you'll see that we're still looking at the broadcast FM band on tuner 1, and tuner 2 we're receiving some ADSB signals here on the second independent tuner. And you can see we still have independent audio of the two separate tuners. We can change that just like we normally would. We have the second tuner over here muted because there's really nothing here. So here you can see this shows the flexibility of having the two independent tuners, because right here we're way down in the FM broadcast band, and over here on this side we're way up in the ADSB transponder band. So this gives you tremendous flexibility, being able to receive two different sections of the radio spectrum simultaneously. Here's a little issue I had a little trouble with initially with using the RSPduo with SDRuno for the first few times. You'll notice that when you restart SDRuno again, what happens here is that you come back up with single mode selected, but you notice that there's no way to change the sample rate here. So what you wind up having to do is to go in the options menu, the settings menu, and change this from low IF to 0 IF. And once you do that, you're back in business again. You can change your sample rate here. One of the applications that's available today to leverage the power of the RSPduo's dual receivers is the ability to pick up the ADSB signals and plot them on the virtual radar software map, as well as use a second receiver to monitor the airband frequencies. So this is kind of a nice little trick for people who are very interested in airband monitoring. But what happens is when you start up 1090 dump, it automatically uses tuner 2 as the ADSB receiver. Then you can start SDRuno and then have your separate airband receiver like we're doing here. Now this is what's coming off of the tuner 2 as it's picking up the ADSB data. So kind of a nice little trick, and there'll probably more to come in this vein as the SDRuno begins to mature. We're really looking forward to having diversity reception at some point in time, and I understand this is being worked on, but it may take a little while to get here. But all in all, in conclusion, the SDRduo is probably the best, and I've used them all, the best one of the SDRplay series, and I'd highly recommend it. Thanks for watching.